pre-order your copy of Football Game Plan's latest book project, The Go-Go Offense by Brennan Marion. Now, Coach Marion is the offensive coordinator at William & Mary and takes you through the ins and outs of the most explosive offense that's lighting up the college football fields and scoreboards in the process. You can pre-order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Now, the release of the Go-Go Offense book is August 25th. Welcome to Football Game Plan, where football makes sense. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the Playbook. Mike McCarthy is your producer today. It's the summertime and preseason is just around the corner in the NFL, and we'll get you ready for the upcoming 2019 NFL season as we preview the New York Jets. Now, as we kick off the season preview, let us take a look at some of the key storylines heading into the season as we go into our 4-minute offense.
Is Sam Darnold a franchise quarterback? He had a 4-9 record as a starter in 2018. He threw for 2,865 yards with 17 touchdowns and 18 turnovers. His command in the pocket was his biggest strength last season. Now, with the addition of Le'Veon Bell, look for Darnold to continue to develop with a superstar in the backfield alongside him. Speaking of Le'Veon Bell, what does he add to the offense? He sat out the entire 2018 season over a contract dispute. He may have fresh legs for this season, but will he be rusty? How many carries will he be ready for this season? There's a lot of questions about Bell, but I'm expecting him to return to a Pro Bowl level of play here in 2019. Now, how does Adam Gase fare as a head coach for the Jets? His tenure got off to a rocky start with a power struggle between him and Mike Maccagnan after the draft, resulting in the hire of Joe Douglas as the general manager. Gase received a lot of flack for this, but his strength is in his offensive play calling, not his front office acumen. Sam Darnold and the offense had to like this hire, especially knowing that he's capable of producing a top 5 offense. And on defense, Jamal Adams is the standout player. But will he be an All-Pro in 2019? Adams received Pro Bowl honors in 2018, racking up 115 tackles, 1 interception, and 3 forced fumbles. The addition of Quinnen Williams and CJ Mosley may take away from his tackle numbers, but expect Adams to have a more interception season in 2019 with the pressure up front.
It's time to put this team under the microscope and go position by position to see where they stand as we head into the 2019 season, and we'll start on the offensive side of the ball at the quarterback position. Last year's first-round pick, Sam Darnold, showed you a little bit of why he was highly thought of coming out of USC. His athleticism and ability to overcome early mistakes helped him begin to turn the corner the back end of the season. The hope and expectation is that he's able to build off that progress and move forward. With a better complement of offensive skill players around him, he should take a big step forward in year 2. The Jets have good depth here as well. I like the progress I've seen in Davis Webb over the last 3 seasons. I've been in both Giants and Jets camp, and the third-year veteran looks to be coming into his own as a player. By far, the running back position is the strongest and deepest on the Jets offense. Bringing in Le'Veon Bell in free agency was a home run move. He gives them a legitimate threat in the backfield whose sheer presence and threat will open up the passing game, making life easier for Sam Darnold and those wide receivers. Also, they brought back Bilal Powell and signed Ty Montgomery in free agency as well. Third-year player Elijah McGuire and second-year back Trenton Cannon are explosive speedsters that bring special teams value. Both McGuire and Montgomery, in addition to Bell, are legit downfield threats in the passing game. So this is one explosive, dynamic, and versatile stable of backs for the Jets. On the perimeter, I think they're being vastly underrated. I like their starting 3 of Robbie Anderson, Quincy Enunwa, and free agent signee Jamison Crowder. That gives them a threat at every level of the field, deep, intermediate, and short to intermediate respectively. Now, the depth behind these guys is where folks may have some concern. There's going to be a serious battle for spots 4 through 7, or however many they tend to keep here with the Jets, as there are some guys like Tim White, Deontay Burnett, Quadri Henderson, Jeff Smith, and Greg Dortch, along with Sharon Peake, who will vie for those services. Now, the ability to play special teams is going to be key, and Henderson, White, and Burnett have some return skills. Chris Herndon turned in a fantastic rookie season and quickly developed good chemistry with Sam Darnold. He's the unquestioned tight end 1 on the roster and figures to see his fair share of targets this upcoming season. Now, in the draft, they did select Trayvon Wesco out of West Virginia, who will play more of a fullback H-back role within his offense. Up front, I like the athleticism of the Jets' offensive line. This group was a bit banged up last season, and now they return at full strength with the new addition in Kelechi Osemele of the Oakland Raiders. Also, the Jets wanted to improve the depth here as well. Keep an eye on Jordan Morgan, rookie out of USC's Shuma Odoga, John Toth and also Tom Compton as newcomers that bring both depth and athleticism to the offensive line. This offense requires the line to be able to move left and right, get out there on the move, and be helpful in a running game. So I would also keep an eye on center Jonathan Harrison as well. I think he's in store for a breakout season. Now here is how I graded the Jets' offensive positional groups. I'm very excited about the Jets defense in 2019, starting with the defensive line. Adding Quinnen Williams out of Alabama with a 3rd overall selection was huge. Williams is a terrific athlete that's disruptive on both ends of defense. He has the capability to play anywhere within the front, giving the Jets a strong trio with Leonard Williams and Henry Anderson. Last year's 3rd round pick, Nathan Shepard out of Fort Hays State, should continue to take a big step forward this year. He's got all the physical traits, just needs to get acclimated to the step up in pro consistency from a talent perspective coming from a Division II program. Keep an eye on 2 undrafted rookie free agents in Kyle Phillips out of Tennessee and Justin Alexandre out of Incarnate Word, who could find their way onto the roster. The Jets got significantly better at the second level this offseason. They added a new inside linebacker in CJ Mosley, who is one of the best at the position in the entire NFL. He and Avery Williamson should form a solid duo. Drafting Blake Cashman out of Minnesota and signing undrafted rookie free agent Jeff Allison out of Fresno State gives them some sub-package flexibility, as both guys are really good in coverage. Now on the edges, Jordan Jenkins was steady last season and is a solid run defender, but the Jets want some juice off the edge, and they'll get that, in my opinion, from 3rd round pick Ja'Kai Polite out of Florida and Terrell Basham, who they brought in last year. Polite plays better than he tested at the combine, and that's all that should matter. He routinely set up shop in the opposing backfield while at Florida and figures to be the type of guy that Greg Williams will absolutely love. Now Basham has the long arms, a powerful punch, and is a terrific athlete. I think he's going to be an underrated stud on this defense. Health is the biggest key in the secondary. Having Marcus May back is huge, as he's a starter, but also an excellent player that's very versatile. He can play both safety spots, even drop down in the slot and cover. His reserve Doug Middleton is also back healthy, as is Rontez Miles. Now starting strong safety Jamal Adams is one of the best defenders in the NFL and should thrive in Greg Williams' defense. I love the addition of Brian Poole at corner because of how physical of a player he is and the great closing speed that he has when taking that track to the ball carrier. The big question will be at the other corner spot, as Tremaine Johnson looks to improve on an up and down 2018 season. Now Johnson was a highly compensated corner last year and has a lot of what you want at the position. He just has to be a little bit more consistent game to game, down to down. Keep an eye on Darryl Roberts at corner as well, because I just love his game. He's got excellent footwork and the ability to mirror and match, and is very active with his hands. Again, health permitting, this group looks to be very improved over last season. And here's how I grade out the entire positional units on the defensive side of the ball. The New York Jets quietly have assembled some really good perimeter talent this season. You have Robbie Anderson, you have Quincy Enunwa, they bring in Jameson Crowder. They also brought in Le'Veon Bell, and they have a second-year tight end, in Chris Herndon, that was really good last year as a rookie, developed a great rapport with Sam Darnold. I'm gonna show you how they go with condensed formations and create all kinds of problems for opposing defenses. We're gonna put trips to the right, tight end on the backside by himself. I love this formation because, again, you can perhaps get a one-on-one favorable matchup with your tight end that does a really good job in running routes deep down the field. So we're going to have him do just that, just run up the field and take it down the seam. Le'Veon Bell is a threat in itself, and the reason why you can have success with Herndon and Bell on the same side, just swing him out here, outlet pass for Sam Darnold, and it's going to take a backer or someone out of the way and create a nice little window to maybe hit Herndon on a quick pop pass or find that seam down the middle if the safety decides to come and help out on Bell. So moving to the front side of what we want to do, Robbie Anderson has a deep speed. He's their deep threat. But first, we're going to take Quincy Enunwa and work him up over the middle of the field, utilizing his big burly frame in traffic to find an open spot so Sam Darnold can get him the football. Then we're going to take Robbie Anderson, work him up deep down the field, and have him just run a takeoff route because, again, he's a deep threat. He's a guy that you worry about. We're going to bring newly signed Jameson Crowder up, in, and over. Again, have the potential for a pop pass. If he clears quickly, he can settle down right here in a soft spot in the zone, and Darnold could hit him over the middle of the field. And we know Crowder does a great job after the catch. But you give Sam Darnold 2 deep shots down the field with Robbie Anderson, Chris Herndon. outlet pass here to Le'Veon Bell, or even a safe, intermediate pass to Quincy Enunwa, and we know how physical he is over the middle of the field. He's their version of Anquan Bolden. So the New York Jets passing game is going to look a lot better this year under first-year head coach Adam Gase. This year, the New York Jets could potentially have one of the better defenses in the division based off what they did this past April, bringing in Quentin Williams out of Alabama and Ja'Kai Polite, the outside linebacker out of Florida. I like what those two potentially bring to the table, especially on third downs. I'm going to show you how they can unlock Ja'Kai Polite's ability to pressure the quarterback. First of all, I want to put Quentin Williams, number 95, and Leonard Williams on the same side. We know that's going to draw a ton of attention. I'm still a big fan of Nathan Shepard and what they drafted last year out of Fort Hays State, the big Division II lineman. And we're going to put Henry Anderson, on the outside here. And we're going to run sort of a zone blitz. But what we're going to do is try to get Ja'Kai Polite right here down the B gap. So first order of business, we're going to, as the snap cadence starts to wind down, we're going to walk the safety up, giving the illusion that he's going to have this tight end man-to-man. But what he's going to do is replace Ja'Kai Polite. So this is his zone right here. Going to drop this corner back, drop the safety back here, corners here, basically cover three. He's going to get a good bump and drop in that flat area right there. And that's where your zone blitz comes from, because we're blitzing Ja'Kai Polite. So we're going to rush Quentin Williams up the field here, hopefully taking this option one-on-one. Leonard Williams, we're going to push him through the A-gap, get double A-gap pressure with Nathan Shepard, hopefully trying to influence a double team here. He's keeping an eye on this gap, and we're going to take Ja'Kai Polite and shoot him right there. Again, seek and destroy is obviously what you want to do when you have a guy like Polite, and you expect him to play mainly a role of perhaps, let's say, a situational rusher. Even if you want to take Anderson out the game and put Jordan Jenkins there, that's a good option as well, because you got both your outside linebackers. They think with his hand in the ground he's going to rush, but he's athletic enough to drop back in coverage. You blitz Polite right there, unaccosted through the B gap. And if this running back is worth his salt, he'll meet him in the hole. But I would trust my outside linebacker with the quarterback in mind to beat that back one-on-one and blitz pickup. So this is one way the New York Jets, in my opinion, can put their best personnel out there on the field defensively and find ways to create pressure utilizing their first and third round picks.
I'm going to start with Sam Darnold. Listen, he's going to play on one of the slowest and most ball-controlled offenses in the NFL. This is not an indictment against him from a talent standpoint. I actually think for a young player, he's got some upside. I just don't think from a fantasy football perspective that he's going to do much for you this season. But the running back position, listen, Le'Veon Bell has always gotten you a lot of points because of his receptions out of the backfield, but he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. I think that changes a little bit this year. I think he gets a few more touchdown opportunities. Not inside the goal line. There's some weird stats that float out there, including Adam Gase refusing to run the ball inside the 5-yard line, which is moronic, but he does throw it. And there's no better target on their team in the receiving game than Le'Veon Bell. So if there's someone who has an opportunity for a touchdown because of the style of play, because of the ball control, it's going to be Le'Veon Bell. This will probably be a double-digit touchdown year for him. And watch out for Ty Montgomery. He's going to work as well in that third down role once in a while. They might even put both of them on the field at the same time to try to exploit some matchups. From the receiver position, I liked Robbie Anderson in last year's system. He could work for you in this year's system, but he's going to play in an arena where he's not going to get a lot of receptions. So you're going to have to rely on him in a best ball league or something like that. You want to probably steer clear because it's not an indictment against Robbie Anderson. It's more an indictment against the offensive scheme until you see more out of it. A receiver that can possibly get you some value, especially in PPR league, is Jamison Crowder. I expect a lot of checkdowns and a lot of short passes out of Sam Darnold's hands, trying to chew up clock, keep the ball moving. Jamison Crowder will be the beneficiary in a PPR league. Quincy Enunwa is, I don't want to call him an afterthought, but I don't think there's any league where he will be of value considering the offense he's playing in and the fact that there's the deep threat in Robbie Anderson and then there's the short to intermediate guy in Jamison Crowder. In the tight end position, Chris Herndon could end up being a guy who ends up with some good tight end numbers. He's not really a specific inline guy. I think that he has the ability to do that, but he is a pass catcher. In the past, Gase's offenses haven't functioned where they've provided a lot of fantasy value to most. It's more of a ball control, don't make mistakes type of offense. So unless the talent or the position calls for it, which tight end is a thin position, we'll get into it later, but he could be someone to call for, and Le'Veon Bell has the clear talent. I do like their defense. Not early on, they have a rough schedule the first 3 weeks of the season. And by the way, I'm a big advocate of you draft defensive talent, but you also draft for the first 3 games on the schedule. And their first 3 games are pretty decent as a matchup. They have Buffalo, but then they have Cleveland, and they're at New England. I think that they can do well against the Buffalo offense. I think that they will play well against New England. Cleveland could be a toss-up, but I think their schedule is fairly easy considering they have the Dolphins on it twice later in the season.
Troy Anthony here, bringing you the best bets for the New York Jets. The Jets, along with a few other teams, are tied for having the second easiest schedule in the league. At -110, I'm taking over 7.5 wins for the Jets season. With new head coach and key additions like Le'Veon Bell and CJ Mosley, they should be in the running for a wild card spot. I really like them week 1 against the spread as well. At -110, their home game against the Bills, they're only giving up 3.5 points. They should cover 3.5 points with a little wiggle room. That's all for now. I'm Troy Anthony. Follow me on Twitter @FootballFandom, replacing the O's with zeros.
I'm David Hassagen, and this is Huddle Up with Hassagen, as we'll fire off some quick fire takes for the New York Jets. Starting with this year's breakout candidate. It's a team built looking for success, Emery. Who are you looking to break out this year?
I think obviously people want to focus on the quarterback, but I'm going to go in the backfield. Elijah McGuire out of University of Louisiana, former Raging Cajun.
I was about to say, why would you bring him up?
Oh, I mean, just obvious. You got to go with the Raging Cajun. When you look at what he brings to the table, explosiveness. And I think when you add that to what Le'Veon Bell brings, you have Trent Cannon. I think Elijah McGuire showed last year, when healthy, he can be that guy they can count on. And sticking with the theme of health, Marcus May, the safety, teaming up with Jamal Adams. Safety is a strength for the Jets. And Marcus May is a guy that is an excellent move defender. He can play free, he can play strong. You can blitz him, you can have him in coverage. Having him healthy for a full 16-game season is going to be key, and I think he's ready for a breakout year.
A lot of hype around Quinnen Williams this year, the Jets' first-round pick. Is he your big defensive rookie impact for this year?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at him as far as what he can do for this defense. You have Leonard Williams already up front. I think when you add a Quinnen Williams who can play the nose, he can play the 5, he can play a 7 technique if you want to. So he's versatile enough to move around the defensive line. He was very disruptive at Alabama, and I think when you add him to the table, he's going to be a guy that's going to really help out this defense, especially from a pass rushing perspective. Offensively, I look at Greg Dortch. Wake Forest, the wide receiver. He's an undrafted guy because the only guy they drafted was Trayvon Wesco. He's going to be more of a fullback, H-back type. I don't know how much he's going to be utilized within this offense, considering what they have on the perimeter and in the backfield. But I think Dortch is an undrafted free agent that can have an impact. He's very similar to Jamison Crowder, who they brought in via free agency.
Who were the big surprises out of training camp for the Jets this year? You get to see them every day. Who stood out to you?
I would say Jeff Smith from Boston College, another undrafted rookie free agent. Because of what he brings to the table from a speed perspective, he can get deep down the field, does a great job in tracking the football. Former quarterback turned wide receiver, so he's still learning the nuances of the position. He was very productive at Boston College. Defensively, I like Ja'Kai Polite. I think because of how explosive he is off the corner, he really gives them a pass rusher that they sorely needed. I know people wanted them to go pass rush early. They did. Technically, they went defensive line with the pass rush, but they were able to get a steal, I believe, in Ja'Kai Polite out of Florida. Forget all the combine and the pro day. Focus on what he did on the film. That's what he's going to do for the Jets. I think this was a steal for New York.
This year's X factor for the Jets to maybe get them above 500, maybe even in contention for a wild card spot, is who?
I would say Jamison Crowder. They bring him in. He's your instant offense. Robbie Anderson is a deep threat.
Right.
Quincy Enunwa is more of your bully, your intermediate guy, the guy that you want to go to get those tough yards in the passing game. Crowder is the guy that can jumpstart the offense. I think because of his impact there and helping out a young quarterback in Sam Darnold could lead them to success offensively. On the defensive side, I think you have to look at Terrell Basham. I know no one is talking about him. He's more along the lines of your training camp surprise. But I think he was jettisoned a little bit too soon from Indianapolis. From the time I was at OTA and minicamp, he kept popping up to me as like, man, this is a guy that's showing explosiveness. I know you can't really tell much without pads, but I thought he did a really good job. I think he's primed for an impressive season. And again, if you could have Polite rushing the passer, and now you get help from Basham, and let's say Jordan Jenkins does a great job in getting after the quarterback, now you've answered that question.
Optimism and concern for the New York Jets for this season.
Optimism is that they have a ton of talent offensively. And when you look at this on paper, running back wise, they got guys that can not only run and hit the home run, but also be threats in the passing game. They got really good receivers. They have a really good tight end in Chris Herndon. Their offensive line, I think, is going to be better this year. And defensively, good secondary, good front seven, guys that can affect the pocket and stop the run. They weren't a bad team last year. They were playing a young quarterback, and they were still trying to figure out how to win.
Right.
It didn't look bad or blown out in games. So this team is, I think, is on the cusp. The concern would be if, let's say, Adam Gase doesn't know how to utilize the pieces that he has. We saw this in Miami where there were opportunities for this team to be explosive on offense with the personnel that they had. He misused the personnel, in my opinion. If he learned from that mistake and is able to utilize what he has on this roster and put those guys in position, they could be successful. If not, this could be another down year for the Jets. Emery Hunt, the czar of the Playbook here, and joining me now is fellow football game plan analyst Troy Anthony for this 4 Downs with the Czar segment, and continuing our preview of the New York Jets. And we look at this team going to the Super Bowl in our Road to the Super Bowl segment here. You look at the Jets having to find a way to diversify their offense. To me, that falls squarely on the shoulders of head coach Adam Gase. He has more weapons here, pound for pound, than he did in Miami. You talk about the backfield. He has guys like Le'Veon Bell, Ty Montgomery, Elijah McGuire, Raging Cajun. You also have Trent Cannon, speedster out of Virginia State. Those are 4 running backs I mentioned. But the uniqueness is that those guys all have the ability to be a downfield threat in the passing game. Then you add Jameson Crowder, who came over from the Washington Redskins, Quincy Enunwa, who's their physical Anquan Bolden type guy on the interior, and Robbie Anderson, who's a deep threat. And they have good tight ends coming off a very good rookie year last year. His name slips me, but he's the
Herndon.
Chris Herndon. You're right. So that's enough on offense. So with those amount of pieces, being that versatile and way you can move these guys around, he has to diversify the offense. I felt like down in Miami, their offense was predictable by personnel. I shouldn't be able to know what's going to happen when you bring in, certain personnel groupings. If you are you can come on that field this year with the Jets with 4 running backs and still be in great passing situation with those guys you have. So I think Gase has to diversify this offense.
Speaking of diversifying, I think that Sam Darnold needs to find a safety blanket. Now, we'll see what Herndon can do in his second year. He had a good season last season, but we'll see if he becomes that second safety blanket in his second year. But I think it's Le'Veon Bell. Just like we saw with Big Ben. Anytime Big Ben got in trouble, it's going to be Le'Veon Bell as his safety blanket. Bell has to be the same for Darnold. And if Bell becomes Darnold's safety blanket, now we're talking massive yards. Because he can chuck it down to Bell at 5 yards and Bell rip it for 40. Or he can just throw it at Bell 10 yards. Line up Bell outside. When Darnold feels uncomfortable, quick to Bell. Bell can take it. Bell has to become Darnold's safety blanket for whenever he panics, get a chunk of yards.
I look at the defense. Greg Williams is one of my favorite coaches because he coaches defense how it's supposed to be coached. He's aggressive, and he allows aggressive guys by nature to be aggressive out there. So if Greg's defense can lead the way, this Jets team will have more than ample opportunities to be diverse on offense, to get Le'Veon Bell the ball more in creative ways. I think their defense has to lead the way. Quentin Williams was a great pick at number 3. Leonard Williams is their long-stay defensive tackle. He's the veteran now of the group. They have C.J. Mosley they brought at second level, Jamal Adams, Marcus May. They have some legit aggressive alpha males right there on their defense. If that defense can lead the way in this division that has Buffalo, that has New England schematically, that has a great secondary in Miami, this defense can, I think, propel this team to where they need to be.
So we talk about offense. We talk about defense. Now there's a third side to football, special teams. Now, when the Jets had Mike Westhoff, they were one of the premier special teams in the league. They need to get back to that. There was always somebody on that special teams that you feared returning, whether it was Leon Washington, whether it was Brad Smith. There was always somebody that you weren't sure if you wanted to kick to them or not. Now, they have good return yards last year. They just need someone who's that weapon who can take it to the who can take it the distance, take it to house anytime they touch the ball.
Well, they got speed. I mean, you got McGuire, you have Cannon, you have Robbie Anderson if need be. Those are the type of guys you want to use in case of emergency. Ty Montgomery can also return, but you're right. If they can find someone to really break the game open with a return, maybe whether it be a full-fledged return for a touchdown or short yardage, definitely is going to be good for this offense. But they're going to be fun to watch because those uniforms they just added this year,
Those are fire.
fantastic, man. So the Jets should be making some noise this year in the AFC East. I have the Jets finishing second in the AFC East. I think this will be a balanced team on offense. I like their running game. I like their ability to threaten in the passing game with their running backs, and also expect Sam Darnold to take significant strides or make significant strides in year 2. But defensively, they will be able to stop the run. They will be able to generate pressure. I think because of those two reasons, look for that secondary to make a lot of plays on the ball. So this is a team that could contend for the division championship, but I think they will be in the mix for an AFC wildcard spot. So that's it for this season preview. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the Playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of our social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to Football Game Plan Podcast on iTunes, where you can find our NFL All 32 podcasts, our fantasy football starting lineup, as well as our Scout Team podcast, and leave us a 5-star rating. Also subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network, located at youtube.com/Football Game Plan. Finally, every Thursday and Friday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, be sure to check out the Football Game Plan show on the Game Plus Network. Check with your cable provider for channel listings.